What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing great today. So as you guys probably know, I talk about the Amazing World of Gumball a lot on this channel, and I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of you guys really like it when I do. A lot of you guys have been asking about the Season 6 ranking video, which will definitely be out eventually. But in the meantime, I was trying to think of other Gumball related videos that won't take me as much time and that I can get out to you guys quicker. And then I thought to myself, there is a lot of underrated Gumball episodes. If you've seen my Gumball ranking videos, you probably know that I'm often saying this is one of the most underrated Gumball episodes, or this one's a really underrated one. So today, I'm going to be talking about 5 episodes of the Amazing World of Gumball that I would consider to be very underrated. Now, before we get started, I want to say a few things. First off, in order for me to consider an episode to be underrated, at least enough to talk about it in this video, it obviously has to be one that's not talked about very often. It doesn't get much recognition, but it also has to be an episode that has under an 8.5 on IMDb. And the reason I'm doing this is because if an episode of a show has an 8.5 or higher on IMDb, then that's pretty dang good. Second of all, this isn't really a top 5 list, this is just me talking about 5 episodes. I'm not putting these episodes in a ranking order, I'm putting these episodes in the order in which they came out. And the last thing I want to say is that if you love talking about cartoon shows like The Amazing World of Gumball, then please consider helping me out by subscribing to the channel because you'll probably like some of my other content as well. All that being said, let's talk about some underrated episodes of Gumball. First episode I'm going to talk about is a Season 1 episode called The Club. Now, if you've seen my Season 1 ranking video, you probably know that I only gave Season 1 a 6.5 out of 10. And although that's not bad by any means, like a 6.5 for me is actually still pretty decent, I still do not enjoy Season 1 nearly as much as the later seasons. That being said though, Season 1 still has plenty of really great episodes, and this is the one that I think just does not get enough recognition. And part of the reason I feel that way is probably because this is actually one of, if not the first episode of Gumball that I ever saw. Even though I didn't start watching Gumball consistently until a while after it came out, I'm pretty sure the end of 2017 or something, I did see a couple episodes of Gumball on TV back in like 2011 when Gumball was first starting to air, and this is one of the few that I saw. But this is definitely a great episode. It's got a lot of great jokes, some of which I'll show right now.
Someone make me angry.
I taped a wrestling match over our wedding video?
Gumball Trisha Watterson. That's right, Trisha is my middle name.
And something that I always really like is when an episode of a cartoon show utilizes all of its main characters. As we all know, there are tons of characters in Gumball. But the main ones are obviously Gumball, Darwin, Anais, Nicole, and Richard. And in this episode, all of them are utilized really well. They all play a really big part. This episode is also great because it has a really funny yet really badass fight scene at the end. And it's just a really fun episode that I think deserves to be talked about more. It's got a 7.2 on IMDb, which is actually pretty good by IMDb standards, but personally, I would give this episode a lot higher. The second episode I want to talk about is an episode from Season 2, and it's called The Storm. Season 2 is one of my favorite seasons of Gumball. I gave it a 9.2 in my ranking video, and for the most part I think a lot of people can agree with me that Season 2 is pretty great, but this is a Season 2 episode that I definitely don't hear people talking about very much. I think that a big reason why I like this episode so much is that I just really like Alan as a character, and usually when an episode centers around him, it's often really good. I always think that it's just really funny hearing Alan say things in his high-pitched voice. In this episode, there's a scene where he's like, "Just shut up, okay?"
Just shut up, okay?
And I think that it is absolutely hilarious. It gets me every time. There's also a scene in this episode where Gumball finds out that Masami tricked him, and he just goes like, for a super long amount of time.
You lied to me!
I gotta give major credit to Logan Grove, who voices Gumball, because that is just some top-notch voice acting right there. This episode also has some of the most adult jokes that I've ever seen in not only Gumball, but probably any kids show.
But if you reinflate, you could have a shot with Masami.
I don't think I have the strength to inflate. Thanks, Gumball.
Whatever, man. Go Gumball Watterson might be a lot of things, but he is not a cheap, corruptible bimbo!
So definitely a great episode that I'm a fan of, and if you haven't seen it in a while, then maybe go back and rewatch it, because you might be pleasantly surprised. Alright, next episode, we're jumping ahead a little bit to season 4, and we're talking about The Signature. Now, I believe that this was one of my favorite episodes of season 4, which is no small feat considering that season 4 has some of the greatest Gumball episodes ever. But I think that this one was definitely an unpopular opinion because it's definitely not a fan favorite or anything. And I think that if you were to ask people about their favorite season 4 episodes, this is not one that would come to mind for most people. But personally, I've always really loved this episode. And a big part of that is the comedy. There's a lot of really great jokes in this one. Specifically, there's a running joke in this episode where some characters will hear a sentence and then they'll cherry pick what they want to hear out of that sentence to make something else.
Try to adopt a different attitude and be happy for Louie.
Dad, try adopt Louie.
No.
Dad,
No.
Dad, adopt Louie!
Another running joke in this episode is that characters will trick somebody else into signing a document and then they'll rip their shirt off for some reason.
No, don't!
Those papers you just signed mean you're now officially my son!
Separately. Oh, hey, can I borrow this shirt?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I think another reason why I like this episode so much is because it was the episode that finally introduced us to Richard's dad, Frankie Watterson. And I'm pretty sure Frankie Watterson has only been in 3 episodes, including this one. And he's definitely not one of my favorite characters or anything, but all 3 of the episodes that he's in are all really good. And another thing is that as goofy and funny as this episode is, the scene where Frankie Watterson is looking at Richard and reminiscing about his past mistake is actually quite emotional somehow. Next episode I'll be talking about is also from season 4 and it's called The Points. The main reason I like this episode is just because it's really funny. And if you're somebody who has ever gotten super into a video game and played it for hours and hours on end, then you'll probably think this episode's pretty funny as well. I think that probably the funniest part of this episode is how Tobias just increasingly gets more and more repulsive looking as the episode goes on.
And then you can buy whatever you want for the game. Here are your good points.
Hey, we're done.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
That's not gonna be possible.
And there's tons of other great jokes as well, like these.
Sorry, I've been playing this game for 38 hours, so I'm starting to train my lose of thought.
What are good points?
I don't know! What are good points? They're points I get for doing chores for my parents.
Chores for your parents?
Yes?
Yes!
It's kind of hard to say why I like this episode so much other than it's just really funny. And again, I believe it was one of my favorite episodes of season 4, but I probably have not seen the season 4 video since it first came out. But yeah, this episode only has a 7.4 on IMDb, so IMDb users, why don't you like this episode more? And the last episode that I want to talk about in this video is actually a season 6 episode, and it's called The Brain. I know some of you are probably thinking, wow, we finally get to hear him talk about a season 6 episode. And yes, you do, because ironically, this episode actually has an 8.2 on IMDb, which makes it the highest rated episode that I'm talking about in this video. But something else interesting is that I was looking on the Amazing World of Gumball.fandom.com. Yes, it's a real thing, look it up. And I saw that they actually have a list for the top 5 worst and best Amazing World of Gumball Season 6 episodes. And according to them, the number 3 worst episode of Season 6 is, surprise, surprise, The Brain. And this is some of what they had to say about it. Here we have the most pointless and time-wasteful episode of the whole show. It just gives us really annoying and stupid scenarios like the dill pickle one. As soon as the scene changes started, it became plain obvious that it was all just a dream, and the reveal that Gumball's 9 whole days mistake we saw at the beginning actually caused the facepalm with the final blow, that really feels like a spit in the face. And even though I do not agree with most of that, I will give it to them that yes, this episode is pretty stupid. But to me, that's just what makes this episode funny. And the Dill Pickle song is probably my favorite part of the episode.
Dill, till, dill until so deal with it. I am a dill, I'm still working at the till. Earn a dime and earn a nickel with my fickle lickle pickle.
Some people might not like that it goes on for so long, but again, that's just what makes it funny to me. There's a lot of jokes in this episode that make me laugh super hard. Most of them revolving around Gumball, Darwin, and Richard trying not to be stupid, but obviously they just cannot do it.
When you said bleach the house, did you mean that in a literal way or more as a manner of speaking?
What have you done?
I went for the literal approach.
And even though this episode is definitely pretty crazy and ridiculous from start to finish, that's honestly just what I like about it. So even though I can kind of see why some people might not like this episode, I still really like the episode and I think it deserves a lot more credit. And I'm not trying to spoil the season 6 ranking video or anything, but that's one episode from season 6 that you know that I like. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Be sure to let me know some episodes of Gumball that you would consider to be really underrated. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like because it really helps me out. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next time.